Let the playoffs begin, and they will begin just as the tournament did. Gujarat Titans, Chennai Super Kings, but this time on the Super Kings turf. We're all set for qualifier number 1. We build up to that on Visit Saudi presents ESPNcricinfo T20 Timeout. Hardik Pandya has won the toss. He's put the Super Kings in, so there's plenty to discuss with Tom Moody and Sanjay Manjrekar. Good evening. Playoffs week seems different. Tom Moody, you've been in the IPL so many years inside the dugout. First year outside it in a while. Playoffs week still feels special?
Very special. And to be honest with you, sort of waking up today and having breakfast, I did have that sense of excitement. There's nothing better than particularly being in the position that these two teams are in, because you know you've got a second chance if it doesn't quite go your way, whether it's just one-off poor performance or you know you get the wrong side of conditions or whatever it might be, you know you're still alive. So you can go in there with with a free head, knowing that you can just have a red hot crack, knowing if you win tonight, you've got 4 or 5 days to freshen up for the final.
Does it feel the same for you? It also feels like it's a good first qualifier to have. Two better teams, or clearly the two best teams of the league stage.
And best format as well, because these guys have worked so hard over so many weeks, and it's not making the playoffs with just 8 teams now. It's 10 teams, so it's a little tougher to get into the final 4. So I like this concept of 1 and 2, the two best teams having another sort of opportunity, just in case they have one rough night. Because it's such a long league. It would be a shame that it ended for the number 1 and 2 after all the hard work. Especially you see how dominant Titans have been, one bad night and out. So I love this format.
Playoff system.
Well, you've earned the right.
Yeah.
You know, I remember in the very first year of the IPL, when I was coaching at Kings 11 back then they were called, we dominated the group stage, got to the semi-final, had our one shocker gone. You know, it just didn't feel right. You know, we dominated, and then suddenly it just went horribly wrong in the power play overs. I think we lost 4 wickets in the power play overs, where previously there was only one other occasion we lost more than 1 wicket in the whole tournament in that power play, and it just happened to be that day.
I know that Ravi Shastri, who we've of course given leave to do the toss and conduct proceedings in Chennai today, otherwise he'd be here, has said that he likes that format of a playoff even for the World Cup with the current format that it follows, with the 10 teams, everyone playing everyone, and of course he points back to how India dominated the league stage and then lost on a bad day in the semi-finals. So do you sense a playoff is a fairer way even in international cricket than a semi?
They'll take a while to get there, but it makes more sense. And India was a case in point, 2019, 50 overs World Cup. They won more matches than anyone else and had one tough after 2 days against New Zealand. So it makes a lot of sense. But because it's ICC, it's a global event, it just takes them a little while to come out with these kind of changes. Impact sub also should come in. I think it's exciting, but let's see when it happens.
There is something lovely about the World Cup semi-finals, the story and the history.
Lovely about the ICC.
Come up with it.
Personally, I wouldn't go there with a World Cup, because you don't see it in any other World Cups. You don't see it in World Cup football. To me, the charm of the World Cup is that sort of that pressure of that last minute semi-final. If you get it wrong, you're not getting in the final. And where I think a tournament that goes over 2 months, like the IPL, I think that's a different format, different.
All right, let's go back to the qualifier, shall we? But it always makes for a fun chat. The playoffs are special; they're unique to the IPL, and we're all set for the first one. Now, how big a toss has Hardik Pandya actually won? MS Dhoni seemed pretty happy batting first, but they did bat first, and Dhoni said at the end of that KKR game, their last home game of the league stage, that they didn't stand a chance because of the dew coming in and how easy it made things for the team chasing. Hardik Pandya has heard that dew will come in today as well. So let's see if this tilts the scales any further in favor of GT than it already was. Sanjay?
I just want to know where Hardik heard it from, because we'd love to also hear that kind of information. Now this pitch, I was there just a few days back, and it looks like a riverbed, no grass, it looks like a dry riverbed. But when you actually feel it, I don't know whether this is that same pitch, but what we've seen with Chennai, and that's why we don't see the 140s and 150s, is that it's still a pitch that will aid spinners. There's not too much of grass, but it's hard enough for batters to get some runs. and chasing to happen, I think it's a very important toss.
Yeah.
I don't believe that only dew gives you an advantage. Just batting late in the evening, the coolness of the atmosphere. Very rarely you'll see a pitch become more difficult batting second. I mean, cast your mind back to so many matches we've seen.
Yes.
Only the real bad pitches become worse. 1996 World Cup semi-final. That was a bad pitch that went worse. And we don't see those kind of pitches now in the IPL. So it's a huge toss to win.
Yeah, this is the same surface as the one that was used for the Punjab-Chennai game, which was an afternoon game. It's pitch 5. It's only the second game on this surface, and that, as we remember, was a 400-run game. It was an afternoon run where Sikandar Raza hit 3 of the last ball to take Punjab over the line. So
yes.
if we have a reference, it's that, but it was an afternoon game. Tom, your thoughts on the surface and the decision at the toss?
Well, the afternoon game versus the evening game are two different
Correct.
scenarios, regardless of whether it's the same pitch or not. But to answer Sanjay's query around the dew, you can guarantee Hardik may not have been the person, but someone or a collective number of people would have gone down to the venue around about sort of 9 o'clock last night to assess the conditions. There's no doubt about that. That has been historically done when I've been involved in situations like this. Because you just get a feel for, okay, similar sort of conditions, is there dew, is there not dew? It's just being thorough with your preparation, knowing that, okay, well, so dew potentially is going to play a role here. So it then changes possibly your playing 11 and also what you're going to do, battle ball first.
Obviously, sometimes, one night you might have the dew, same conditions, next day you may not have. Yeah,
that does happen.
Yeah,
So
it
you
does
could have
happen,
the
but-
same temperature and yet not have dew, or is it about how humid it is?
My
and that
experience,
usually,
without really studying in too much detail, is that it surprises you.
Well, there's a few factors without getting too deep into it. But if it's breezy, if it's overcast, if there's cloud cover, and temperature, they're the 3 key factors you need to take into consideration. I'll just leave it there.
Hardik Pandya is a sincere man. He's not a cheeky little bugger like me. But hearing MS Dhoni's comments in the last game, I wonder if you'd have thought, if I win the toss and bowl first, let me just make a mention here, there's dew coming later. Let's see if that plays into how CSK bat first or how they think about this game. Is that too amateur a trick?
Yeah, against MS for sure.
Yeah, I don't think MS is going to fall for that one, is it?
MS is great thing.
So no gamesmanship.
But the interesting point is he made that point very early. That was the first point he made.
Yeah.
So clearly that is in the back of their mind that they're quite pleased about winning that toss, allowing their bowlers to have the best of the conditions. And you've also got to consider their attack. They've got 2 very good wrist spinners that if the ball suddenly is wet, they're nullified. Now they're going to get the best of the conditions. Now it's game on.
All right. It is game on with a different set of seamers, though. At least one new face. Darshan Nalkande will play his first game this season for the Titans. Played a couple of games last year in the early parts of their campaign, in their inaugural season in the IPL. Has been part of the Kings 11 Punjab squad, but never got a game. So he's got a collective IPL experience of 2. And he replaces Yash Dayal. So the right arm seamer replacing the left arm seamer, and they stick with the same overseas combination. So there's no room for either Josh Little, who's back after international duty, or Alzari Joseph, who we thought would be their frontline seamer when it comes down to picking one. Dasun Chanaka will keep his spot in spite of having done very little so far as the Sri Lankan white ball captain. Let's get a reaction on the right arm seamer first, Nalkande for Dayal. Sanjay?
You have no idea exactly why somebody has been back, but from a distance, my reading is that there are quite a few left-handers in CSK. You've got 4 in the top 7, and all the memories of the big overs of a Tewatia or a Rinku Singh. It's a left-arm seamer bowling to a left-hand batter.
I like how you close your eyes and relive those memories in a moment.
Just like Tikshana.
Yeah. Oh, the Patirana.
Oh, Patirana.
does
Yeah.
that, yeah. Very good. Carry on, but please.
So yeah.
So you think the left arm angle to the left hand?
Yeah, that could be the reason, and short boundaries as well. So you're always wary of a bowler who's recently had this experience or a record of conceding a lot of runs. So maybe just a right arm seamer, and both Nalkande and Yash Dayal, these are all not seasoned IPL bowlers, so they're going to make their job easier. Another hint that we can take from that is that Hardik Pandya might bowl a couple of overs. He hasn't until now. So.
Yes, I found it interesting, Tom, that they got Dayal back for their last 2 games. of the league phase, where perhaps they would have said this is then going to be our combination. But barring injuries, and let's assume it's not an injury concern, is there any merit in just throwing an uncapped bowler for his first game of the season in the qualifier?
It is surprising, but to me, when he's returned, he hasn't looked himself. He hasn't shown the consistency and the confidence, and you can read a lot into body language, and I've just felt that he has been quite withdrawn from a contest, and that's the last thing you need your fast bowler to be. You need them engaged in that contest and very much up for it. So, that to me is probably the defining point that, he's not quite right. So let's go with the other, and the other may have just been, bowling the house down at nets and in preparation. So let's just go with that. We're more comfortable with that. The other point I'd like to make is that the Dasun Shanaka, the fourth overseas slot.
Yeah.
To me, I'm reading in between the lines that Hardik Pandya is not going to bowl with that selection, because otherwise, I just would have thought that you're better off. I think it's a better side with Josh Little in it.
Absolutely. In fact, that's a bigger discussion.
Yeah,
really.
well, and the other way of looking at it is the combination they go with is the Indian seamer with Dasun Shanaka, or the Indian batter with either Josh Little or Alzari Joseph.
Yeah.
And they don't seem to have even gone to that for some reason. They could have easily played Abhinav Manohar or Sai Sudarshan, along with Little stroke Joseph, but that's not happening.
That's the point.
Especially on a pitch like Chepauk, Josh Little is the bowler that you want in your side. So I'm very surprised with Dasun Shanaka. So yeah, that's a bigger talking point than Nalkand and Yash Dayal may not be that bigger difference. But Dasun Shanaka, keeping Josh Little out, that is now available. He's played so many crunch games as well for his side.
And it may be because, Shanaka's brought up on these types of surfaces, plays spin well, they possibly feel that they need that depth and that experience.
I mean, this team has such depth in
I
batting.
know.
So maybe your other point could be the one that he wants somebody who can bowl a bit, and of course if he can take care of the batting. But I think it's the wrong way to think. But Titans have great tactics on field, off field. So there must be another very pertinent or very interesting reason behind it.
Right.
But they have enough batting. But Josh Little on this pitch would have been brilliant as a pure bowler.
Why have we discounted Alzari Joseph as well? Would he have been handy against a Shivam Dubey, who's one of the key players in the opposition at 10? MS Dhoni has already told us he has trouble with fast bowling or short pitch bowling.
He's got rid of that problem. If you look at how he's played the short ball, he's played it better. I think, on Chepauk, Alzari Joseph, how effective will he be? And when he last played, against Mumbai Indians, he didn't look that impressive. So maybe
you could read into that body language too, like Dayal. Yeah, you wouldn't have entertained that either if it was not Little. Is this a better selection than Joseph, for instance?
Yeah, since Joseph has been left out, his reappearance, he hasn't looked like he's been the same bowler to when he first arrived in the IPL. When he first arrived in the IPL, it was like, this guy's a serious threat.
Yeah.
Saha was taking the ball, well above his head, and it was like, wow, like you've got to be on your toes here. But I think since he's been, which can be quite common for fast bowlers in that they're not getting the game time, it's very hard for them to get that type of rhythm and consistency, and he looks like he's in that category.
True.
Where Little is a different package completely, because he creates a great left arm angle, he's got a good change of pace, but he also can bowl high pace. He's not quite Joseph pace, but he sort of can be 140 to 145 when he gets it really right.
Yep.
So if you're needing to sort of offer something up around the chest and the head area, well, he can do quite comfortably and be a threat.
Okay, well, that's pretty much it from the team's point of view. We'll see how things go now, but everything changes when Chennai play at the Chepauk. Well, not much actually, because everywhere they've travelled to, they've had that kind of home support, but they are masters of understanding conditions here. They might have not had as proud a home record this season. There were a few close games. They could have gone either way, but they won 4 out of 7. Now, Matt Roller is back in the comforts, preparing for the pre-season of the United Kingdom. But let's have a look at what he's got for us on this very special tactics board on Qualifier 1.
Across the IPL's history, no team has a better record playing at home than Chennai Super Kings, and they've extended that home record this season with 4 wins out of 7 during the league phase at their home ground Jaipur, the venue for tonight's qualifier game against Gujarat Titans. The fact that they're playing at home could be enough to give them a slight edge, but their head coach Stephen Fleming isn't so sure. After their last home game in the group phase this season, here's what Fleming had to say about their return to Jaipur after 3 seasons away. Fleming said, "It's very difficult to work out what the surface is going to do with the dew. We're still learning the new conditions. 4 wins and 3 losses is not bad given that we don't know the conditions. I stress that it's not the same as what we left. We've seen scores of well over 200 and scores of 145. It's been quite a big variance." So, what do we know about pitches at Jaipur this season? Well, as Fleming says, we've seen a pretty big range of scores, as you can see on screen. The average score in the first innings has been 168, but we've seen scores as low as 134 and as high as 217. We've also seen dew take effect in some games, meaning that the pitches have got easier to bat on, and in others, the surface has slowed down after the innings break. But the general trend has been pretty typical Jaipur in that spinners have dominated. As you can see on screen, spinners have a better economy rate and average than seamers at the venue this season, and have also accounted for nearly half of the wickets. What I want to know from the guys in the studio is, how long can the team who bats first take to assess conditions, given that we know it's probably going to be a high-scoring game, and just how high should they aim?
Found himself a nice little spot, hasn't he, Matt Roller? Right, how hard should teams go? And we are expecting a high scoring game. How long do they take before they figure out conditions? Who wants to take that first? Matt's thrown it to 2 of you.
Oh, you're taking the first ball.
Yeah, because
he's a brave batter.
Because I've been traveling and looking at the pitches, and I've watched MS
You're
from
an expert.
very close quarters. And batting first is tricky. It's a tougher thing to do than chasing a target. So to assess what's going to be a right target, and every Chennai pitch has been a little different. There's been one that has been very good. There have been some that have been difficult. So MS is so good at this that he'll ask his batters to go and bat, and every few overs, seeing how the pitch is behaving, there'll be an assessment. And he generally does that very quickly, around 8-10 overs. And that's when the whole camp will know what is the kind of target they want to set. But they might just feel that pressure against Titans, because the batting of Titans is almost endless. So it's going to be a little tougher this time. But a difficult task, batting first. The team that does it best would be CSK.
The one observation that I've seen with Chennai this year is the quality of their opening pair. Conway and Gaikwad. Conway is such a good player in any conditions, and he's nearly the measure of how the surface is playing, because he seems to adapt so quickly. It's like I've said this before on this show, that it's nearly like he's been batting in India for 10 years. He plays very much like an Indian player. He's not playing in front of himself. He's playing the ball very late. So he'll make those adjustments very quickly. Gaikwad will obviously do it as well, because he's brought up in this environment. And that sort of message will be relayed, whether it be just by the way they're playing or whether it be verbally relayed back to that dugout. Look, guys, this is only a 160 wicket. We need to just navigate this first 6 overs without trying to shoot for the stars, and then push on from there. Or it may well be, we've got a 200 wicket on here. Yeah. We're going to go hard in this power play and try to get that score between 50 and 60 in the power play.
Yeah, as we just look at Mohammad Shami's IPL, it's been an excellent one. He's in line for the purple cap. He's competing with his teammate in Rashid Khan. At Ahmedabad, he's been virtually unplayable. A couple of spells where he's picked up 3 or 4 in his opening burst, and then at other venues, it's not the burst record. The economy is on the higher side, but a strike rate of 18. He's got 9 wickets in 7 games, as against the outstanding form that he's shown at the Narendra Modi Stadium. Now, as far as these two teams go, excellent matchup, if we could use the word in, Tom, against Devon Conway. 8 balls, 2 dismissals, and just 3 runs. That round the wicket angle seems to work for Shami against Conway. He's got Ajinkya Rahane on the other hand, has a very good record against him. Now, we were flirting with the idea on one of our tactics previews on whether CSK would want to change it up. and have Rahane and Gaikwad try and counter Shami. But would you have a chat with the Devon Conway and say, right, okay, this is a matchup. Why don't we look to get you off strike and let Rutu take Shami?
I wouldn't be opening a conversation with one of the game's better players, current players in the world, with a negative by saying, you know, something like that. You know, to me, he will know very well what his record is against Shami, and he will know very well how he's going to counter that. I would be, if anything, just providing, you know, his preparation with the opportunity to be ready for that without making it obvious to him, because, you know, pointing out a sore thumb, it's going to be sorer than it should be. You know, he doesn't need that negative. If anything, it's just a case of, you know, it's probably in a casual conversation at breakfast, oh, you can guarantee Shami will go around the wicket again, you know, and then let him respond to that without it being, you know, an obvious thing to point out.
Right. Fair enough. Let's talk about GT spinners, shall we? Rashid Khan, Noor Ahmed, they could very well be the difference. If CSK take them down, maneuver Rashid well, maybe go hard against Noor, then we could very well see them get an above par score. Noor Ahmed is the kind of bowler that's blown a little hot and cold. He's been excellent on his night. He also goes for runs on others. His first 6 games, he's picked up 10 wickets at an average of 15, strike rate of just under 13. Just gone off the boil a little bit in the last 4, but he's still getting wickets. So it's a simple question, Sanjay. Noor Ahmed, the type of bowler that he is, are we expecting him to be impactful at the Chepauk? And Shivam Dube will obviously be given the task to take him down. Maybe so too Moeen Ali.
Yeah, his recent form also has a lot to do with where he's bowled.
Yeah.
Against Mumbai Indians, he had one of his more expensive spells. Apart from that, you know, he's been pretty okay. I think there was one game at the Narendra Modi Stadium where he went for runs. So he's gone for runs where the pitch is absolutely flat, you know, difficult pitch to bowl on. I find Rashid Khan and Noor Ahmed the bowlers who will be impact bowlers no matter how the pitch is. That's why I believe, now we've talked about batting, what kind of pitch will suit CSK and Titans. With bowling, if we have a pitch that's going to turn a lot more than the previous Chepauk pitches, it will suit CSK.
Yeah.
The finger spinners of theirs will come into their own a little more. The spinners that Titans have, even on a good pitch, they'll make a mark. I mean, Rashid Khan doesn't need a turner, Noor Ahmed as well. But Noor Ahmed against Shivam Dube is a more, you know, it's a more sensible move than having Rashid Khan, who's a little quicker than him against Shivam Dube.
Yeah. Tom?
I would definitely target Noor Ahmed without a doubt. I just think they can't afford, Chennai can't afford for them to both be working in tandem to shut them down. So I would be, you know, whether it be Dube or whoever it might be that's out there, encouraging them to put him under enormous pressure. You know, there's no point sort of fighting the tide that, you know, the strong tide that Rashid Khan produces, because, you know, he's such a good player. Yes, be proactive and certainly show intent against him, but, you know, more often than not, you're better off depriving Rashid Khan of wickets and then, you know, taking your runs elsewhere.
Yep. We speak of the Titans as being an extremely dangerous bowling attack. They're a well-rounded team throughout, but all of a sudden with this new look combination, without the overseas fast bowler, and now with 3 Indian seamers, Shami's been excellent, of course, but Mohit Sharma has a job to do at the death. The former CSK man is back at the Chepauk. He's been around, and in his comeback season, he's had, again, games that he's impacted. He's been player of the match in some of these scrappers that we've seen in Lucknow and other places, but off late he's also gone for a few. That death overs record isn't so bad at just under 9s, but do you sense there is a vulnerability to cash in now in the absence of perhaps Hardik Pandya, the bowler, and the overseas seamer, Sanjay, that if Mohit Sharma and maybe Nalkande with 1 over of Shami have to close out, that there is perhaps a game to be decided in the last 5 or 6 today?
We saw what is ailing Mohit Sharma of late in that match against RCB on a belter of a pitch where he bowled seam up to begin with. I don't know, because his strength, like Harshal Patel, is to take the pace off all the time. And when he did that, it worked, but even when he took the pace off, it wasn't quite having the effect. I believe here at Chepauk, it's going to give him a lifeline. I see him bowling really well. People like Deepak Chahar, Mohit Sharma, you know, Indian seasoned bowlers. This pitch is perfect, and now that they're bowling first as well, it's going to actually help Mohit Sharma even more. So I see him becoming the force again.
All right, interesting. Now you're both said Gujarat Titans on the eve of this game. Just wonder with the nature of the teams, and of course the toss that's gone in the Titans' favor, whether you want to revisit that and give me a first inning score as well. You still saying Gujarat favorites?
I'm sticking with Gujarat. First inning score, I think, is going to be about 178.
Okay. Sanjay?
Yeah, around the same, yeah. Just give me a few seconds. Let me have a look at the first ball. Okay, I'll go with 162.
Wow. And tell me what caused that reduction after
Just
the first
a ridiculous sort of quick assessment.
That it did
Yeah,
something.
the ball didn't quite bounce. It seemed to grip a little in the pitch, and yeah, so there might be a little abrasive feel to the pitch. Look at the bounce, and yeah, so one very, very minuscule sample size to make a huge prediction. That's my style.
I see. At the playoffs, I do give my score as well. Since it's fun to have two people wrong.
You can't help yourself. Come on.
Well, I predicted CSK to get to the final and win it. So
Oh God, you're milking that, isn't it?
yeah, we all are.
Okay.
198.
Okay.
So 178, 162, 198. Thank you very much. Gentlemen, we will have more on this exciting first qualifier at the end of the Chennai innings. Join us then on Visit Saudi Presents ESPNcricinfo T20 Timeout. Download the mobile app. There's a lot of good content that you should consume while you watch this game. And I'm sure it'll be a high standard game that we expect these playoffs and qualifiers to be. So look forward to see who stands closer to their predictions at the end of this innings. Join us then.